Hi, Dave Jones here again. This lesson is on the last of the series of three on the vibrato technique. This is a slightly different type of vibrato to the other two. Gets the same sort of effect, might sound a bit different. I would call this one wrist vibrato. I don't know if there's a special technical name for it. Exponents of this type of vibrato tend people like B.B. King, fantastic blues player, tends to use this sort of wrist vibrato a bit more. And what's happening here is it's a little bit like the classical vibrato where if you've been following the videos, your finger moves horizontally along the string. But then it's also a sort of a cross between like the vertical vibrato where your hand moves up and down. Because what happens with this is you tend to take your thumb off as you do with the horizontal vibrato, but instead of your finger moving from side to side, it moves up and down. It's from a wrist movement, a bit like the vertical vibrato. So what I'll do is I'll show you a little close up. This vibrato tends to be a lot more common on the first finger. That's not to say that you couldn't practice it on all fingers if you wanted to. I'll show you a little close up with all fingers. Generally speaking, a little bit like the bends, if you're going to use the third finger, or particularly the fourth finger, which I've not really seen anyone do, but if you're going to use those fingers, I would have another finger supporting, just for the extra support and control of the vibrato. So I'll just show you a little close up, and we'll move on. Okay, so here we are. I've got my first finger on the 5th fret of the G string, the note C, and my thumb is no longer touching the fingerboard. And you're going to play the note, and all the movement is coming from the twisting of my wrist up and downwards. And then the second finger, and the third finger, and you can try the little finger if you want to. Personally, I wouldn't probably ever contemplate this type of vibrato using my little finger. So it's a movement of a twisting of the wrist, and you're still pulling the note upwards and downwards. And you can, so little, those sort of licks can sound quite nice in blues with a little bit of vibrato on them. And like I say, if you listen to someone like B.B. King, would be a cool person to listen to. He tends to use this vibrato quite a lot. It's probably not something that I'd use that much, but that doesn't mean that it won't work for you. Everyone has different vibratos and such like stuff that work for them. So it's a good idea, again, to practice it anywhere on the neck. Yeah, so that's what I would call wrist vibrato, and it's a good idea, like before. Once you've nailed it in one position and you've got the actual hand movement, the technique behind it, then practice it in various areas on the fingerboard, because depending on where you do it, the easier it would be to make the note move up and down. And as I said before, with what I would call the vertical vibrato, moving up and down, the most important thing is that you let the string come back to where it wants to rest naturally after you've finished doing your vibrato, because then you'll be finishing on an in-tune note and it won't sound horrible. And if you tend to pull down a little bit more than push up, as I mentioned in the vertical vibrato video, that's fine too, as long as your string comes back to rest where it naturally would want to rest. If you weren't applying any pressure to it, that's going to be an in-tune note. So I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you again sometime.